Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello and good morning. It is here in Hawaii, and I'm Sue Minahan, and this is Talk Cosmos. And today is the 12th of July. We are in the midst of summer, and I am doing this alone because summer is active, and more than that, the sky is active. Amanda is active. She's not here. So I decided, hey, good opportunity to share a few thoughts that I had on my own and explore an hour with you. So with that said, we're going to look at two moon phases, the manifestation of the new moon in Cancer and then Aquarius, the full moon. So we'll get started. See ya.
Talk Cosmos explores the journey from the dark new moon to the full moon's blossomed brilliance. In this second week of the month, we look at the moon, our emotional anchor, as this personal planet weaves the past into the present through our memories, feelings, and habits. To decode this month's lunar beats shaping our world, let's meet the astrologers who will connect the moon's emotional story to our lives here on Earth.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies. And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop. Yes, indeed, we are. And this is a water sign, of course. You know, here we have Earth, the sky, the moon. The moon is our companion. We share it with the sky. And many mythologies are not always devoted to whether that moon is female or male. And for good reason, actually. Because here, and I will say one thing about the moon, it does represent home. It's our, whether it's the earth, whether it's your, in Western astrology, we do think of it as our foundation. You know, it's right at the bottom of the chart. In Hawaii, PBS, I listen to it a great deal. I love the station. In fact, I've just been listening to so much about the history of our nation in depth with amazing programs that give you all this information that tell us that we're in a cycle, actually in a huge cycle of changes. But what they repeat over and over is home is here. It's really a strong message because where is home? Home, you know, it is said it's where you have your hat. You know, I used to think that often because I do travel a bit. I certainly wasn't born in Hawaii. I was born in San Francisco, but I lived all up and down the West Coast and I traveled other places. But yet it's deeper. And I think that's what the message of this new moon in Cancer is, to find that part of yourself deep inside that's your home. The turtle is a very ancient symbol for Earth. And Pele, you know, the volcano, which is still erupting. I think we just had 51 a couple of days ago, is one of the oldest goddesses of Earth, where Earth manifests itself, which brings in all the factors of life. Hina is the goddess of the moon. However, Dietrich Varese, who's died in 2018, he
he was born in Europe, but he came here. His father was in the military, and so he grew up here in Hawaii, and he loved the wood cutting, and it really created so many wonderful, wonderful wood cutting pictures. Now, this one I happen to own, and I just, after having it for about 6 years, I finally brought it to the frame shop to be framed. But Hina can be many female goddesses. It is predominantly the moon goddess in many ways, but she can be the one that gave life to the reefs. She could be the one to the fishermen. It shows us what the idea of the moon really is, I think, because the moon is that receptive light. It's not initiating where it's clear light, where we see everything in the sun, but it's that reflective light. It's that part of ourself. And we'll see this with the Sabian. That's our dreams. It's the wishing and yearning and imagination of what can be. Now, Hina, in this particular one, had a calabash coconut gourd, and she brought in 3 of the fiercest winds so that she could put them out to keep peace with humanity. If humanity gets too excited, you can certainly find a lot of his wonderful pictures with Dietrich Varese. Now, we know in Western mythology, the moon has many names also. Diana, who is also Artemis, because Artemis and Apollo were twin sisters, twin brother-sister, and Diana became the Roman name, which took over all the Greek mythology. But Luna is often referred to, as we know, as the moon. Selene is also the moon, and so is Hecate. Oh boy, my word in my mouth. Hecate, who is the dark moon. But all of these are phases, because the moon does change. We know processing its phases. It's very regular, 28 days, and 29 and a half, it completes one. Into the next cycle, it enters one in 28 days. But we have these names of mythology, whether it was with the Hawaiian Hina or whether it's the moon as we call it, because we have applying moons, and we differentiate that from the waning moon, the waxing. Getting back to whether or not we consider it female or male, I took a list with AI. There's a ton that saw it as male, and for many good reasons. And one that I'm going to elaborate on is the Norse, Mani, who also had a twin sister many, many times. All of these, if you read them, had a sister, because one had the moon and one had the sun. And why? Because here in Western mythology, we think of it as the strong Apollo who was the sun. But here in Mani, for instance, it took a strong protector to protect people during the night when things weren't visible and imagination could really get carried away. And you remember that nature can be fierce. We have protected ourselves so much in this Western culture, whereas many parts of the world still are tromped on by ferocious animals, insects, if nothing else, fire ants in the Amazons. Besides here in Hawaii, but they're not the big ones, they're the little ones. So it is the interpretation of how you see things, because that imagination and that need to expand how we visualize and partake, because life is split, dark and light, unless you're at the poles, and even then you have the extremes, you still have extreme light, and you experience both. And how do we manage that? And just to open up our minds to realizing that we can embrace both. So Manny Gauguin in 1894 did this. he traveled to the tropics. And Mani is also, actually, this is not Mani. This is the goddess Hina. Yes, that was from there. I kept moving things around. It is Mercury retrograde. I was just reminded by my soundboard man, Nathan, who I think many of you are learning to know. And I thought, good, that's very helpful. Because things need to get rearranged. It's not just in one place. The sky right now is embracing change. So we'll go with the flow. So here it is, one portrait of Hina. But Mani, back to the moon, the male version, brother to soul, was a timekeeper. And when you study it, which I did on a research process that Alan Clay did with many of us, NCGR has a wonderful research program. And so when we looked at many facets of it, but we all came to our own conclusions. But generally, it is a timekeeper. And what I found fascinating is that it extends the sense of time. So embrace both of those ideas. The moon, as we know, has our monthly orbit, yet the moon also has its second progression, which is 29 and a half years. And we get about 3 of those in a lifetime, if we're fortunate. My third one's coming up. It'll be exciting. But right now, Mani is at 12 degrees Capricorn, which is in the Scutum constellation, the shield. It's protecting the galactic center. And the Sabian for that is a fire worshiper, meditates the ultimate realities of existence. This is a subjective search for meaning and truth beyond the cycle of life and death. And I might just say that I think the cosmos again and again is bringing in aspects such as Saturn with Neptune at the conjunction of 0 degrees Aries, which is a 6,400 year cycle. I just gave that back in April, and I know many others have, and it keeps coming up because it's a wow factor. That's a long time, but it is this humanity of measurement in some way. So it's internal, our interior, and our external. Keep all this in mind as you think of the moon in the future. Back to some basic astronomy. The new moon, the moon is at the closest point to Earth. And at the full moon, it's outside the Earth's orbit. So it's subjective. And so this is versus subjectivity versus objectivity. It's a very fascinating way to take your own stories in life, because all of this is an imprint. We have to ground it for today, who we are. So the 2 moons we're looking at is one at almost 22 degrees. It couldn't be closer, 21 degrees and 59 minutes of Cancer. And it'll be in 2 days. In fact, today, well, this is another highlight. I'll wait to tell you that. But in 2 weeks, on the 29th of July, it'll be 6 degrees and 30 minutes of Aquarius. The moon is out of bounds right now. We're in some pre-shadow retrograde path for Uranus, and Pluto is retrograde. This new moon in Cancer, it's like a protective welcome. It is that home, as I was speaking of. It's the womb. It's our friend, our companion of our feelings. We create our stories through the moon. But if I look at vibrational astrology, without going into all the vibrations and all that, it was very clear that it is a playful discovery. So it's a very warm welcome, I think, to have Mercury retrograde right now. In fact, today, that's what I was going to bring up. Mercury is cazimi the sun on the 12th. So, and they are in each other's signs. No, are they? No. Mercury's in Cancer and the sun is in Cancer. But play is one of the very first experiences a little kid does. It learns and plays with things to discover. And indigenous people, if you go across the United States, where the four corners are, with those states out in the southwest of the United States, you'll see big circles. We were at not Camp Verde, not the Verde one, but Oak. There's a Oak. It slipped my mind here, but and there you see a big circle where they would have games. But down in Mexico too, they have games early on, with the ball that people would flip with their foot. We used to live there and we're aware of this. But the point being, that's how we discover things. You can play with an object and see what it is and get together with people and just toss it around and expand and explore. It's not frivolous. There's a reason for it. And that is the energy that we're experiencing now, or coming up in a couple of days for these 2 weeks. Meanwhile, insights are happening quick. Mars and Uranus are smack dab together. They're going to separate a little bit. And Jupiter is in Leo. We have air and fire, although the nodes are still in Pisces at 0 degrees. Well, let's look at, and then Venus and Mars. Venus and Mars are quite interesting. When they get together, we're creative. We need to create something with our hands. And I might be jumping a little bit here because that is vibrational astrology. And it's not just woo-woo discovered. It's actually through looking at thousands of charts and the people that were best. So if you look at your own, you might think about that a little bit. Whether you want to cook, it could be medicinal, or whether you paint, or whether you garden, or maybe write your story. The Sabian symbol for 22 degrees, because it rounds up, is a young woman awaiting a sailboat full of expectation. That's the seed. When you play with something, you're not quite sure what you're going to find. You just fool around with this, you play with that, and discover things. But it is this Cancerian reviewing of finding those dreams, those things within us that perhaps we loved and yet we let go. And yet there's a part of it that stays with us and we want to embellish and become. So this Mercury was retrograde on the 12th, cazimi, but it started a couple of weeks ago, and it will end in a couple of weeks on the 23rd. It went from 20 degrees in Cancer, actually 26 degrees. It's at 20 degrees right now, but it started at 26 degrees Cancer, and it'll go back to 16 degrees. Let's look at this chart a little bit. There's a lot of conjunctions. The moon is out of balance. And interestingly, the sun and moon are mostly conjunct some asteroids of strategy and what is sacred to us, and including everything, because what has been excluded. That's Eris. Because in the meantime, other strong things are happening, and it's taking time. This is a very yin time. It's internal. Next month, remember, is going to be the eclipses. So it takes time to really work and restructure what our foundation is. That's really the purpose of Cancer. Getting familiar again. Maybe we've been traveling and we make that good soup. Oh boy, but what was spice did we put in it to make it really great? It's an interesting experience to really personify Cancer for all its emotional stories and what is habitual. And are those habits really something that we want? Because we have Mars and Uranus still in Gemini that we're breaking things up. Let's see how that's working. They are right at the nodes, the lunar nodes. That means how have we been maybe organizing that separates, that differentiates, because we want to see the wholeness. We want to be able to participate and engage with inclusivity. And it could be that maybe we don't have to quite be so exact with how things are structured, and maybe just reorganize new categories, that I'm thinking of birds, birds versus mammals, or anyway, you can get the picture of yourself. But there's so many new energies. Chiron has just entered for its about 8-year cycle, like Aries, a little less, but very long because it's so elliptical, in grounded Taurus, ruled by Venus, the sensuality, the resources, who we are. And it is looking at maybe we don't need to be so critical. We can be more imaginative about our dreams and about what we're doing. We look at another energy here. Actually, Chiron is with, it's easy to get these mixed up, so I apologize. But what's squaring the nodes is Uranus and Mars. So that's sudden things happening that just shock you and bring consciousness, awareness. But our Chiron, what we're trying to embrace is our truth of who we are that maybe we've overlooked, is undergoing a huge metamorphosis in intense revalue structure between also with the nodes in some sense, and what our contracts are. Because that Venus is really struggling with what's the true value of what I feel at home with. How is my hat that I'm wearing? Do I need a hat? Do I just need a scarf? Do I need one that lets the sun come in, or do I need to protect myself? Do I need a strap under it to hold it down? I mean, all these things, they're symbolic of what life means when you're truly rested and just feeling comfortable in your own skin. The mythologies of life really connect us to our past, distant, and it is time where we need to create new mythologies. We need to create the mythologies that recognize that we are male. We have these energies of the male and the female within, that the male can be very sensitive. The female can be very dominant. It doesn't have to be structured in one way where we just instantly see that life is categorized. Pisces, just by its definition, in many ways, can hold two things at once. This is a gift. It's going to be clearing out by the next full moon that we will talk after the break in a few minutes. But it hasn't yet arrived. This is our last chance to take all these disparate ideas and just put them together and let the party be there, both existing and both. So with that, we'll be right back. This is Talk Cosmos. I'm Sue Minahan, and we're going to have moon manifestation from the womb to freedom. We'll be right back. Thanks.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. Currently, we are in the period of Cancer. By leaving a cycle based on connecting mental communication to the external, the energy of Cancer involves emotions, which create our personal story through our emotional associations and attachments. As a cardinal water sign that is nurturing, Cancer needs to process emotions in one's own internal rhythm of cycles in order to complete an evolution.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Linda Rasmussen at verticalenergyworldwide.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, July 19th, it's an encore presentation. Tune in to hear our last shelter rescue sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We talked with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, Animals 24-7, and a great update on Spiritual Renewal Week at Ananda Village. Hope you can join us, Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Bored with the other stations, hammering away on the same old talking points? Try Alternative Talk 1150 and get some variety.
There you go. Okay, you can get a hold of me and all our programs at talkcosmos.com. Every week I present a new program, and YouTube is at Talk Cosmos. So thank you for following. And just to show a little potpourri of what we've had that might be highlighted, since I'm beginning, the calendar is shifting, lives are shifting, and I'm like a incubator here because I have different people that are on trips and leaving all at the same time. And I've always thought, well, I'll find somebody, but rather than do that, why not do a few myself? So that's why I did time travel. It was a subject about Saturn and Neptune, 6,400 years, and grounded it because it relates in so many ways. Astrology does. It's not just a paper picture, and it's not just the sky. It's a living form. It happens in about everything that you can discover, just like color. We live in the world of color. Unless there's some animals that see black and white or infrared. Thank you. At any rate, Summer Solstice is a vibrational for the entire season. It's very informative. And then Astrojam, what fun. This really have dynamic. Two teams, they play with each other. Talk about play. And it's historical. Discover people and how they functioned and what maybe was pivotal in their lives astrologically that they responded to, because it is a reflection back and forth. Last week, I had Kay Taylor, who is instrumental, the president of OPA, and she is the president of UAC. She is one powerfully busy person, and also creating an evolutionary astrology program with Kepler. But we spoke about Jupiter in Leo. I just think this is really an exciting Jupiter in Leo. First of all, it connects at some point to the Venus star point because one of them is in Leo. There's so many reasons to listen in. But next week, I am very delighted to talk with Rick Levine. It's the first time I get to talk to him all by myself. So I've been thinking and hatching and wondering because, like he says, nobody really knows what this next Barbeau basket burst is going to do, but we can imagine. So imagine we will. So check us out next week. Okay, let's get to what this is. Oh, and Laura Tad does create the Moon Journal. I always advertise it on this show. And you can purchase that at her Mythic Sky. Ask her any questions if you want. Nothing's out of bounds. Uranus is still pre-shadow path at early Gemini. And it's retrograde or pre-shadow retrograde most of the year. One day off and it isn't. Whereas this year it had 3 whole days that wasn't retrograde. So let's see what's happening with this 6.5 degree Aquarius full moon. I need to bring attention to the fact that this is the 29th of the month. And on the 26th, the nodes, an 18-month cycle, shift. They've been at 0 degrees. They go backwards. They'll be at 29 degrees, and they'll be in fire and air, not earth and water. Huge difference. And that means that the sun is going to be, from modern astrology's viewpoint, ruling the Leo, where we've had, with Cancer, we've had the moon. So that's quite a difference. The moon is, shifts every day at some degrees, and 2.5 days moves, and it's emotional. And there's been a lot of reasons to reflect and maybe touch on a lot of aspects, because it does carry light. There is that with traditional light. So much wonderful news about the moon. It literally brings energy from the universe into us. But now we will be focusing on the sun. We'll be able to look at things maybe and do some more planning. And they're both yang. They're both out there, although it's fixed. Well, let's go into this particular chart. It is after the 19th of July, when Barbeau's basket is exact at 4 degrees. There'll be a second one next August in 2027 at 6 degrees, but which will have Ceres in it, the nurturer of grief. And we'll get to that story when it comes. But this one has Jupiter. Because Jupiter is in Leo, it is making this basket so powerful. Now, this show is not about the basket. That'll be next week with Rick. But we can't help but, like waves, everything's vibrational anyway, to kind of borrow and understand. But look at that chart. There's still 4 degrees. It's because these are slow-moving planets. They're way out there. The moon and Pluto, we're transforming, we're metamorphizing what our emotions are, how we see it. But it's in Aquarius, so we're a bit more detached, which is a good thing. It can get pretty personal otherwise. And we're also looking at what's our community. Remember when we were playing with groups, we were trying. This one here is all about action. It is tons of action. For years and years, it was the idea of the time will come when you jump into the river and those will be your people, the Hopi mythology. But now there's a little choice. And evolution is action. It doesn't stay static. Even a rock is made of atoms and moves in some way and finally goes into limestone if it's sand. The point being, we will be engaged. So it's important to try to become conscious as much as possible and find, because a lot of this will be internal. It'll be an interesting dichotomy where, as external as it is, it flushes back into us internally. And in my own thought, because this is a seed point, there's going to be this is several trines. What's making this barbell basket is the trine between Uranus and Pluto that were originally conjunct back in the 60s, then square earlier in this decade, 2012 to 15. But there'll be these trines where there'll be some flow of what's happening and changes. So, and it can be very creative. But creation sometimes is to find how to make honey out of vinegar, or how to make it sweet, how to put our stamp on our individuality on things. And our freedom call is so wrapped up into many things. I hope I'm expressing that. But we will be driven by that moon. It is a Thor's hammer, as they call it. And more than that, right opposite is Jupiter, expanding everything with the sun. We'll see things clearly, and it will be opinionated. People have opinions in Jupiter. But the beauty is that as we change our emotions and we get more experiences, and maybe we go out to groups and we meet other people, we begin to shift our beliefs because they're made by information. And we see the story might be a little different than we thought. Just like PBS has been telling us about the Revolutionary War or even the Civil War, of how things, the disparity and all the work that people had to do. Well, I couldn't help but look at the U.S. chart. I know that on my personal circle of people, there are those that just disdain anything that they think is political. I am not in any way speaking whether you have this alignment or that alignment, but rather that there are these connections that make the timing auspicious, meaning it's awareness, just being aware that, just like today is Mercury retrograde. Maybe if I forgot something, or I'm reflecting more, or looking backwards, forwards, and frontwards, however it was, and both, it's part of that energy. But yet there's so many, astrology has umpteen possibilities because life is full of possibilities, a field of possibilities. It's a field of intentions. That is root. Intention. I didn't think I'd get there, but that's a good one to land on. So looking at the U.S. natal chart, and I will mention that if we go into any nation, many times when I have somebody on, like we had Mark Jones on, I was curious. We were talking about, can't quite remember at the moment, but how would that be happening in England, in the British Commonwealth? And amazingly, it was. And other times I was talking earlier this year with Stormy Grace in Spain. And I wondered, what's happening in Spain? So it's not just isolated here, but at the moment we're focusing on the United States. I didn't take the time or have time to check out all the other countries, but there's many, many Cancer countries. In fact, New Zealand's a Cancer country. Many people are going there for various reasons, but many people are staying here. It is our home. It's our culture. And we are at a 250-year moment. We've gone through our Chiron return. We're still experiencing it. But the whole process of becoming a nation was not overnight. It began and it went for 13 years until you had a constitution in 1789, and then even beyond after that. And interestingly, so we'll leave it at that. Meaning that it's a process. Perfect talk for the moon. The moon is a process. And the USA is having a Mars return 3 hours and 3 minutes earlier than the full moon, which just shocked the heck out of me. I went, wow, what happens every 2 years? That is the moon cycle. But what's amazing about this one is it also has Saturn opposing Saturn. Now, Saturn, our natal one in Libra, is really the sign of the general. It's very diplomatic. You know, if for Saturn, of course, is a great structured. It's important. You have to have a backbone. You have to have a spine. You have to know what's essential in life. You drive home a point. And to have Saturn in Libra is, General Patton had his, I believe, in Libra. Also, it was in the 7th house, but to have it exactly opposing in Aries is most interesting. It's just part of this whole picture of a focus, but really important. So you have Mars, but Mars happens natally. It is in an activating square. Squares are activations. That's what they are. It's like it goes and it wants to do something. And we act, based on our desires. The problem is that perhaps our desires might conflict with somebody and we are not thinking of that. We just instinctively, it's instinctive, you go ahead. But it is square Neptune, which really could be on the plus side, imagination and vision. On the minus side, it could be escapism. So that's awareness to understand. Is one just taking time out because one doesn't have the courage, or can one envision? Because with Venus there, Venus is all about what do you desire? What makes life beautiful? And beauty is a Fibonacci cycle. It is something that is embracing all of life. It's the spiral of the galaxies. It's the shell, the very first shell. If you go to the Smithsonian, there's a shell. We move through space in a cycle, but we're moving northward. We're in a spiral. Meaning that, so Venus it's a powerful message of times that we're coming into. And more than that, this is just before the full moon, so it's balsamic. It's right at that very edge, holding all the seeds ready, about to bloom in its entirety. But the moon is actually, do I have that right? The midpoint between well, no, I think, okay, we'll leave that alone. Yes, it is a fascinating journey. Oh, that's what. It is conjunct our north node and south node. That means perhaps, as Kay and I were talking, the south node is where we release, it's familiar. Like our south node is in Aquarius. We think in groups, we think of elevating the population. Where we're heading to is being our American dream, I suppose. It's for me, I can make it, and etc. But then it's also, if it's the full moon, it's where we need to juggle. How can we shine in a group to be the freedom? Aquarius is freedom. It's that liberation. The very planet, Uranus, as rotates on its side, it goes backwards. It's different than all the others. Well, Venus also rotates backwards, but it's up, not on its side. So it's illuminating. I always feel like Uranus illuminates. I mean, illuminates by the idea, if we look at lightning, shows the vision, and it's also intuitive, where you suddenly see things. But more than that, it wants to self-correct. It wants to course correct. If you're out too far, boink, back you come. So in other words, we have opportunity here to recognize all those parts as we go through this month, looking at where our womb is of what's feeling whole, and what maybe we can let go of that's not allowing us to participate in a group or shine the way or lead the way that we wish. Now's the time, because next month, as I say, is going to be the eclipses, and those are in Leo. There's so much. We begin with the nodes in water and earth, which is very grounding. We have Taurus in earth too. But they're going to move towards activation. But all of this is going to be within and without. It's a whole package. So ask yourself now, especially with Mercury, is there some new information that's changing my belief patterns as I reflect back? What is it that maybe I remember fondly that I forgot, that I really wish I could yearn and be calm, like, looking for the sailboat. You're out to it was just very perfect, because we have the North Node in Pisces, like a big sea, and there's this ship out there that we want to get on. Well, with the full moon in Aquarius, and I'm just thinking, I did put that down, I'm sure of it. It was that, it was the egg bursting. Where is that? Yes, the way you change things. Because it's an egg that's bursting out of itself. Did I go over that? That's a beautiful thing. It's a perfect match for this yearning part in the womb. Because the two signs are inconjunct or quincunx, but yet one can breed to the other. If we take our time and hone ourselves, use that reflection of who we are and what we want to be, then with the full moon, the Sabian symbol is bursting forth as the egg. I hope I didn't lose that, because we have to change the way we look at things, like Wayne Dyer said. So I'm going to scan back and see if I can find it, because it was just a beautiful picture. And I'm going to go back, just like the retrograde here. Back we go. There. Rats. Well, it's a loop. It doesn't want to go back. Well, anyway, just remember that's what it was. Oh, I hope I didn't go on top of it with something. Maybe I did. The point is, the universe is a key to helping us figure out the stepping stones. Whether you use the moon as a feminine or masculine, it's like breaking away, just like Saturn and Neptune and Aries, breaking away some of the barriers, letting ourselves be receptive, letting ourselves become that idea that we hold within ourselves without being dictated by the time that we're in, realizing that time is a bigger picture, far greater. I think that if we look at the barbell basket as a launching pad, which it is, along with this idea that what we expect out of life and birthing our freedom of being, that we can combine our story into the world. You know, the world's a big place. You begin to realize all this discovery of new locations on Earth, as the new, TV tells us. And it's important. It's important to know about the history of us, the history of the world, of cultures, of other places, that they don't see necessarily the moon the same as we, that it has its other stories. Like, for instance, if it was in cultures where they drive across the moon, the sky, but it's all about time. But what is time? Time is supposed to be timeless. It's not really a thing. It's something that we experience because we have calendars, and we also have a moon, and we have the sun, and they make our time. We had the lunar solar calendar, and now we have one that's pretty determined, where it's still not absolutely perfect, because nothing is totally perfect. It's always a little askew. It gets down to some nano something. But it makes possibility, like a kaleidoscope, new experiences. Because the sky that we have now is not the sky that it was 6,400 years ago. It has a whole new team of signs and consciousness. And that's why I wanted to bring attention to the fact that we are, this nation, undergoing a rather remarkable moment. So, just like a 2-year-old might act a certain way, but we realize, oh, that's because they're developing. Well, we as a nation and the world are developing. And it is that collective embodiment as a whole. If we can think of playing with each other, playing with our ideas without an agenda, that's actually vibration 5. I'll give a little sneak preview. It's the first real behavior that where you discover things, because it gives a new viewpoint. If you're peeking around a corner and you jump in a hole maybe, and you're hiding from someone, just a simple game like that, you see things a little different. And if you're there alone looking for everybody, suddenly you're alone, and then all of a sudden they all come out. I mean, these might be odd references, but the point is we can shift and mobilize and intend to have our consciousness open up. The arena is full. The light is happening, and the universe is opening up its arms to us to say, how does it feel inside of you? Do you like it? You want to change something? Well, just get out and join some group, join a person, get some activity, because the world is going to be changing in front of you, and you have to keep up to be part of it. Well, next month will be our solar eclipses and lunar eclipses. And we will have Amanda back, I believe. And we'll probably separate those two so that we can really focus on it. And next month, too, I have Patricia Walsh. She's going to be talking about the nodes in fire, Leo, and air of Aquarius. And Patricia Walsh is quite a wonderful astrologer of regression astrology and evolutionary astrology. So the story keeps going. It's just, what's our part of it? Who are the characters that make it up, that we want to love, that we want to include? that maybe we've overlooked, maybe ourselves. However it goes, may your story and may your adventures be rejuvenating as we all live in this world together. All right. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for joining this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.